Hey there, it's Sarah, back with another 12 minutes of exercise to help you improve your fitness on even your busiest days. And today we're going to focus on the glutes, the hamstrings, some hips and thighs, those upper legs. We've got 7 rounds, 3 exercises per round, 30 seconds per exercise, 15 seconds of rest in between each of those rounds. I have my mat out because we're going to finish on the floor. I am barefoot, so I can really feel my feet connected with the floor as we do these exercises today. But if you would rather wear shoes, if that feels more comfortable for you, keep your shoes on or go grab a pair and put them on right now. Make sure you've got a comfortable space down on the floor that you can finish this workout. We'll be laying on our back. We're going to start on our feet though, with them right under our hips. Soften your kneecaps. And then draw your belly button up towards your spine because we're going to hinge from the hips. And as we do this, we're just going to push the hips back behind those heels, press the heels into the floor, and activate those hamstrings. And then really squeeze the glutes as you bring those hips back under the shoulders. So let's try that for 30 seconds. My timer's over here. Knees soft, core tight, feet under those hips. Let's just hinge from the hips. Push those hips back behind the heels. Keep that back long and straight. That belly button up towards that spine. Wiggle your toes and set your heels into the floor as you do this hip hinge. Warming up those hamstrings, squeezing the glutes as you bring that chest back up and those hips back under the shoulders. At the bell, if you'd like to step your feet a little bit wider, you can. We're going to squat. Sit the hips back and down, keep your chest lifted. Keep those toes light, sit into those heels, and keep squeezing those glutes to bring yourself back up. Core is still tight. We're protecting that low back as we sit those hips back. Press those heels down to come up. When you hear the bell, we're going to hold our squat, and we're going to add our hip hinge to it. So we're going to sit down into that squat, and then we're going to lift our hips. Bring the chest down a little bit. Bring the hips back down, bend the knees. Straighten the legs, lift the hips, sit the hips back down, bend those knees. Just going back and forth. Sitting into those heels, keeping that core tight. Squat and hinge. We're going to shake it out at the bell in about 5 seconds. Keep your core tight, support that low back. We're going to do single leg work. If you need some help with your balance, walk over to a wall or a chair, something nearby, because we're going to tap one foot behind the other. Knees parallel, hips square. And we're going to repeat that hip hinge on one leg. There goes our timer. Hinge forward, push the hips back, squeeze the glutes as you come up. All the weight is on that standing leg. This back foot is really light on the floor. It's there to help you keep balance, but it's not there to do the work. The work is on that standing leg. Push through that heel, hips and shoulders square. We're going into a single leg squat. You might need some help with your balance on this one if you need to hold on to something lightly next to you. Bend both knees, sit the hips back, and then come back up. Keep the chest lifted, the core tight. And we want that back knee to come down in line with that front foot. And you don't have to come all the way down. You can stay up high. Listen to your knees. Make sure they're not flaring out or buckling in. We want that front knee going right over those middle toes. We're going to stand up tall at the bell. We're going to take this back leg and we're going to kick it back. So bend the knee, flex the foot, kick behind you, bend that knee back in. You can use something for balance. You can tap the toes on the floor in between. Try to keep those hips square. Really kick through the heel and squeeze that glute. Feel the hamstring fire up. We got about 12 more seconds. You can challenge the balance, keep the foot off the floor. It's okay if you wiggle around in that standing foot just a little bit. Stay active in that standing glute. Shake it out. We're going to switch legs. So we're going to try that on the other side. Starting with our hip hinge, tapping that opposite foot behind you, knees parallel, belly button up tight. Chest lifted. We're going to lead with that chest, push the hips back, and then squeeze the glutes to come back up. Keeping those shoulders square, using that core. Hips back until you feel that hamstring fire up, and then work the glute to bring yourself back to standing. Keep that back foot light. Try to keep those knees parallel. And get ready to squat at the bell. Use something for balance if you need it. Sit the hips back towards that back heel. Bring yourself back up. You've got weight in both feet now, so you can use both legs. And listen to those knees. You choose the range. You don't have to go all the way down. Make sure you're feeling those thighs activate. So even if you're in a high range, think about that muscle contraction. Find those glutes. Get ready to kick it back. So shift all the weight into that standing leg, flex that back foot, kick behind you, bring the knee back in. You can tap the foot back down. You can hold on to something nearby for balance. Try not to twist those hips. Kick back, kick through the heel, squeeze that glute, feel that hamstring. Core is still on. Maybe we're dancing around in that standing foot. Keep that leg active. Feel that hip working, and let's shake it out. Now we're going to go side to side. Starting on one leg. Feet are wide, heels outside the hips. We'll side lunge into one leg. But the leg that's not bending, keep that foot planted into the floor. So we're going to keep both legs active, weight in both feet. And we're going to press our knee towards the pinky toe, all on one side, bend, and then come back up. Try to sit your hips back, but keep your chest lifted and that belly button tight towards your spine. Press out towards that pinky toe. Push through both pinky toes and both heels. And then we're going to shift our weight into that leg that we've been bending. We're going to take the other leg behind it, there goes our timer, and we're going to bend that standing leg. So our back foot is now light, and that knee is still bending towards the pinky toe. Try to keep the hips square, the core tight, the chest lifted. When our bell dings, step wide again, bend both knees, and we're going to pulse squat. It's going to be more of a plie squat. So we're going to tuck that tailbone under. Toes to corners, tailbone tucked under, and just stay low in that squat. Press your knees out, push your feet down, and tuck that tailbone under. Try to scoop the belly and really squeeze through the backside. Maybe dropping a little lower, squeezing a little harder. Make sure your core is still on. I remind you all the time, but it's so important. Support that low back, and you'll be strengthening those abs as well. Shake it out. We're going to switch sides for that side lunge. So set yourself back up, feet wide, toes turned out. And we're going to bend into that opposite leg now. Plant the other foot into the floor. Keep weight on that leg. Send your hips back as you bend that knee towards the pinky toe. Chest is still lifted. Hips are staying square as they push back. Try not to twist. We're firing up those outer hips, our inner thighs, abductors and adductors, helping us out here. Keep squeezing those glutes. Your curtsy lunge is coming. Tap that other foot behind you. Bend as low as you can into that standing leg. Try to square up those hips. Lift the chest. Press that knee over towards that pinky toe. Push the whole foot into the floor. Really feeling that outer hip down into that thigh. And we're going to plie squat in 3 seconds. Stepping those feet wide. Dropping low into those knees. Press those knees out. Tuck that tailbone under. Try to scoop and really squeeze. Push those feet down into the floor. Is your belly button still pulled up tight towards your spine? Are you still breathing? Sometimes when the work gets harder, we tend to hold our breath. But your muscles need that oxygen, so breathe. Your break is coming. We're going to use it to come down to the floor for some hip bridges to finish this workout. Maybe our timer will cooperate. Laying on your back, hands down by your hips, heels in by those hips. And then we're going to keep the head and shoulders down, squeeze the glutes, press into the feet, and roll those hips up off the floor. And then keep that tailbone tucked under as you roll back down. So we're going to peel our spine up one vertebrae at a time. And then we're going to reverse it one vertebrae at a time, presses back down. And that tailbone can lightly tap or it can hover at the bottom. Knees are reaching towards the midline. And those glutes are engaged the whole time. Press through those shoulder blades and try to tuck the chin towards the chest. Lift those hips a little higher. Bring one ankle over the opposite knee, and let's bridge with one leg. So we've made a number 4 with our legs. Our hips are staying square as we roll ourselves up and then back down. Much harder on one foot. You might not get as high. That's okay. Try to push that whole foot into the floor. Try to really press through both shoulder blades and lift those hips together. At the bell, you can bring your thumbs under your hips because we're going to keep them lifted. And we're going to take that foot off of our knee. We're going to extend it out and tap it in. Extend your leg out, tap the toes in. Bring that foot as close to the hips as you can get it. And if the heel doesn't go towards the floor as you extend out, that's okay. Just straighten the leg out, bend that knee, tap the toes back on the mat. Try to keep those hips lifted. Use your thumbs for support if you need it. And really press through those shoulders. When you hear the bell, bring the hips down, hug the knees in, release that glute. Rest that hamstring. Rock side to side to release that low back. And we're going back to our 2-foot bridge. So bringing those heels by the hips, roll those hips up off the mat, slowly bring them back down, keeping that contraction through the back side. Try to press through those heels. Try to keep those knees reaching towards the center. So that leg that you just worked, it might be saying, oh, hello, this is a lot. Make sure you're working both sides together and work through that burn you're feeling. Keep that tailbone tucked under and let it just lightly tap or hover off at the bottom. Let's switch legs. Make that number 4. Bring the ankle over the opposite thigh. Lift those hips as high as you can. And again, lightly tap or hover at the bottom. Press through the foot that's on the floor. Press through both shoulder blades and keep those hips lifting together. Try not to twist. We're holding at the top when you hear that bell, so you can bring those thumbs under the hips for support if you need it. And then we're going to tap that foot out and bend it back in. So extend and bend. Try to keep those hips lifted and level. Again, you can just straighten the leg, tap the toes. You don't have to take the heel towards the floor. It's going to make it a little bit harder if you do, though. And you hit play so you can get stronger. So let's challenge ourselves. We are almost done with this workout. Keep those hips as high as you can.
Activity complete.
That's it. We're done. Roll those hips down. Hug those knees in. Let go of all that work you just did. Give yourself a big pat on the back for pressing play today and getting in your 12 minutes of exercise. If you've got 12 more minutes, let's hit play on another video. You can stretch it out. You can ramp up the intensity. There's a little bit of everything here on my YouTube channel, so make sure you subscribe. I would love for you to come back and join me again. I'll see you again soon.